How's it going? So today on BKRsport, we've got another one of these power rankings. Obviously, we are going to be doing these every single Wednesday for the A-League. And I'm excited to talk about it this week because obviously a lot has changed. A lot has changed in just the space of 1 week, 7 days. Now, guys, you may notice that I have this on my wrist. That's because I'm getting out of quarantine today. Vlogs start up again this weekend. This is basically just my key to head on out of here and get onto the vlogs, baby. Whoa, yeah, get onto the vlogs. I'm looking forward to that. But in the power rankings this week, guys, there's quite a bit of changing in the middle area. There is a little bit of change at the top as well. Not so much change too much at the bottom, though. But let's just get straight into discussing the power rankings and why each team is where. Alrighty, so first up we have number 12, and number 12 is Melbourne Victory. Now, I don't think this is much of a surprise to anybody. Last week they were in 12th, this week they're in 12th. Now tonight, guys, they actually do play the Western Sydney Wanderers, so this can change. They've played 4 games so far this season. You know, they obviously haven't been good really in any of those games, and that's why they are down here at the bottom of the table. Even the game against Perth, like I said last week, is that, yeah, they won 2-1, but that was a bit of a Perth collapse at the back in the last few minutes there. They scored the last those two goals in literally, 87th minute and 90th minute there, or whatever it was. So, as much as they won that game, I also attribute that really significantly to a Perth collapse down back. But they are obviously coming off this weekend a loss of 5-2 to the Brisbane Roar, and a very comprehensive loss at that. Yes, it was only, well, I say only a 3-goal difference, but when a team's scoring 5 and it's only a 3-goal difference, you've scored 2 goals and you'd be relatively happy you were able to get on the score sheet a couple of times, and you'd be like, well, how did I lose that? I scored 2, but that's just the Melbourne Victory this year. They're just not looking that great. Their defense isn't that great. I don't know if rhythmically is a word, but they don't have any rhythm and they're not flowing rhythmically. I don't know if it's a word too, to be honest with you, but the point of the matter is that this team just is the worst team in the competition right now. And yes, they've got an illustrious history, but you've got to remove that from your mind and realise that right now, this team just isn't going great guns. Brimmer's a good little player there. Obviously, he scored a really nice free kick against the Brisbane Roar. Really nice just before half-time there. And, to be honest with you, that first goal for the Melbourne Victory was actually really nice too. I know it was technically an own goal for the Brisbane Roar, but if he doesn't get a touch on that, that would have fallen for the Victory play coming through and they would have scored a goal. I'm not too sure. I can't remember who it was, but the point of the matter is that, they would have scored a goal. That was a very nicely worked play right down the left-hand side. However, they obviously did go down 3-0 very quickly. In the first 20 minutes of the game, they were down 3-0, so there was a huge problem there. So, yeah, overall, they do play the Wanderers tonight. That can change their positioning because they're 1 game behind Melbourne City and I think 1 point or a couple of points behind Melbourne City. And then obviously you've got Newcastle Jets who are, a couple of points above them, but they've played 2 games extra. However, I just don't see Victory getting a result this weekend. I think they might play 2 times this week actually, but I still don't see them moving too much on this table right now. Next up, guys, we have the Wellington Phoenix. Now, last week, obviously they were in 10th, so they've dropped down to 11th here. Now, this could be classed as a little bit unfair, and I understand why, but I'll explain to you, obviously, my reasoning for this. So they lost again, right? They lost to Sydney FC 2-1. Now, they were arguably on par. I wouldn't say better. They had a lot of opportunities, and I'm saying they had a lot more opportunities, actually, but there's another team that we'll get to in a second that's very similar to this result, right? They had a significant more amount of opportunities than Sydney FC. However, Sydney were more clinical, finished it off. Should have really won 2-1. Alyssa Sevilla with a goal, in the last few moments to make it a close one, in the 90th minute or whatever it was. But realistically, they got beaten, and I still think it was a pretty decent performance by Sydney, but Wellington were actually relatively impressive, just couldn't actually put the ball into the back of the net, basically. And that's why I feel like it could be a little bit rough putting them down below. However, the team that went up, obviously, they got a win. So, and also, I think Wellington are actually currently in 11th on the actual standings too. Right now, they haven't proven anything to say they're actually going to get the result that they, I guess, deserve. I don't even know if you can say they deserve it, but I think they deserved a draw. I think they deserved... No, they didn't. They didn't deserve a draw against Sydney FC. You could argue it, but Sydney FC were the better team. So it's a confusing one because they weren't bad. They were pretty good, but just couldn't finish off their chances. So I'll leave them at 11th for the time being, but I definitely can see them rising up in the near future. Number 10, and I'm pretty keen to talk about these boys, the Newcastle Jets. Now, they're actually in 8th in the regular season table. They're actually in 8th on the genuine season table. They were 11th last week on the power rankings. This week, they've gone up to 10th, which is obviously, a pretty good rise for them, I guess, considering that everyone thought they would be 100% sealers for the wooden spoon. Not me, I said victory before the season started, but everyone was like, Jets. And I was like, well, fair enough, they'll be down there, but I just don't see them being that bad. They'll be able to get a couple of draws, a sneaky couple of results. And look at this one. They're coming off a 1-0 win against Melbourne City. Now, Melbourne City, and this is a frustrating thing because so many teams have problems this year that when a team gets a win, this is what I find with Mariners actually, whenever a team gets a win against a team that's relatively decent, you can actually make excuses for the team that lost. You can make excuses saying, well, that team's just, a bit dodgy right now. And then the Mariners don't get the credit or the Jets don't get the credit that they probably deserve for beating them. However, you still do need to realize that the overall, the overall look of the A-League right now is that a lot of teams, every team has their own issues and problems compared to other seasons where there wouldn't really be too many problems with, say, Sydney FC or Wellington Phoenix or Melbourne City up top. We'd lose a couple of games here and there, but not as convincingly as what we've seen so far. But I think this was a good result for the Jets, like a seriously good result. I know City have been struggling, but City won't struggle for too much longer. If they do, then bloody gee whiz, they're going to keep dropping. They'll be below Newcastle Jets sometime soon. But City had a lot of opportunities. Like, that was down really to them. I thought Jets' defense was okay. I think it was fine. But I think that majority of teams would have still been scoring against them that day. And I like the Jets. People on my stream the other night were saying, buddy, that I love the Jets. I'm like, well, no, I'm just looking at how they're playing this year. And they're not that bad. they're not that bad. And they arguably should have had a draw or a win against against the Brisbane Roar, my boys. I don't see them going too much higher than this. I think this will be kind of where they peak this year. They play the Brisbane Roar this week, which is a bit dodgy, especially considering the Brisbane Roar are coming off a loss, and also it is up in Brisbane. However, the Jets did obviously dominate Brisbane Roar in the previous meeting between the two. However, they did lose that game. So we'll see if the Brisbane Roar can bounce back. We'll see if the Jets can maintain this, I guess, form. But I'm pretty happy to say that the Jets should be in 10th, and yeah, I think that's fine. In number 9, we have no change. The same team last week is the same team here. It is Adelaide United. What's going on with this team? At the start of the season, I genuinely thought they were one of the better teams in the competition, but nothing's going on here. They went up 1-0 against Perth and, completely dominated the first half, but the second half was just all Perth, and Perth came back and won 2-1. You've got to be happy with that one. So Adelaide just don't look as convincing as we all thought. Their midfield is decent. Malk obviously, was good when he came on. Stephen Mork came on and, he did decent. He scored a goal. That was his first game back, I think. And their defense is a shambles. Their attack is a bit of a shambles. I really think the only thing going right for Adelaide right now is their midfield, but they also lost their direction in the after half time. I think that 9th is fair for them. I think they're lucky that they're 9th. I think they're lucky that a lot of these other teams are worse off than them right now, like the Jets. But the Jets, I could have easily argued for them to be above Adelaide here. I'm not going to lie to you. I could have easily argued for them to be above Adelaide, but I'll put the Jets there because I still think Adelaide overall are a better team. Just because you see these results, guys, doesn't necessarily mean I'm just going to chuck them right below. If I think a team is still a better team and is still looking in a better position overall, I will still have them higher. That's why I have Adelaide here. Unfortunately, I think they will struggle this year, but they're not going to be... I don't think they'll be... they could still be 9th. They could actually finish the season here, to be honest with you, but I think they'll probably finish a little bit closer to the final. In number 8, we have Western United. Now, Western United, obviously, they were in 7th last week, and they've dropped down this week because one team obviously got a good little cheeky win and will jump above a couple of teams, whilst Western United, they went up 1-0 against the Mariners, went 1-1. They went up 2-1 against the Mariners, went 2-2, and then bloody Alec Wall for number 3. So they lost 3-2 to the Mariners. I don't think you can argue too much about Western United so far. Yes, they may look like they have a decent attack in them, but in the same sense, overall, Western United aren't flowing anywhere near as a team as they should be to be winning games. Their defense doesn't click with their midfield doesn't click with their attack, and their defense and attack definitely don't click. So there's no fluidity. Yeah. It's a tough one, but I think that 8th is fine, and they definitely deserve the drop after, losing 3-2 to the Mariners. Number 7, and this team was previously in number 6, so they've dropped off 1 with Western United. It is the Western Sydney Wanderers. Nothing really to go off this week, they only really dropped off because of, this other team that jumped above them. I think that, the Wanderers is still a pretty bog standard team. There's still not really going too much in the attack. Now, obviously, they did score 2 goals against a really good defensive team in MacArthur, but That game was a really strange one. That 2-2 was a really strange one there with MacArthur, and they had to come back twice, I guess, so you can commend them on that. But I don't really see putting them in a different position right now. I don't think they proved anything positively on the weekend. I also don't think they proved anything negatively on the weekend. Like I say, I think they're one of, if not the better defensive team in the competition right now. And then add that with one of the worst teams in regards to attack. So I guess it was the opposite in this game, and it is what it is. So, yes, they're 7th and not 6th anymore, but that's only because another team won. Number 6, and we have Melbourne City. And you should think yourselves damn well lucky that you're even in 6th right now. The only reason that I've got Melbourne City still in 6th is because if they don't win this week, actually, who do they play? Who do they play? I can tell you right now, if they don't win this week, then I can tell you they won't be in 6th next week. I can tell you they won't be in 6th next week. So City will be playing the Wanderers. Oh, I should know that. I'm going to that game. I'm vlogging that game. A little bit of a sneak peek there. Obviously, subscribe if you're new around here because we will be doing that vlog. Look, this team is horrific, but they have so much quality. But this team is horrific because I don't believe in Patrick Kisnorbo. As you guys would have seen on BKR clips, or if you watch the stream, I don't believe in Kisnorbo. I think the chopping board is, the knives are being sharpened. The knives are being sharpened right now, and this team just doesn't have any connection with each other at all. There is no game plan. There's no plan B. There's no plan C. There's no even plan A. There's no plan A with this team. There's no plan A. Where's the plan A? You need plan A to win. No plan A. So I think City should be lower, but when you're in 4th, I don't really see you dropping such significantly outside because they still have so much quality. They still had so many opportunities. They just didn't put them into the back of the net. So they'll still get more wins this year. They'll still make the finals. Come on, lads. They're going to still make the finals. So you can't drop them off too much, and I just don't know how long Kisnorbo will be there, and then they'll obviously improve probably once he's gone. So yeah, I think 6 is fine. I definitely think people will argue it though. Number 5 and the biggest movers of the week, MacArthur FC. They were in 8th last week and now they're in 5. So they jumped those other teams and they got the job done. You know what I mean? They got the job done, and I guess I was just waiting for them to get the job done in regards to a couple of games this season. Now, yes, they drew 2-2 with the Wanderers, and they weren't the better team, but if you were going to give a favourite, like a team that should have won, if someone was to win out of the two teams, I would have lent with MacArthur. It's still, look, I think defensively they're still great. No one believed when I kept saying that they've got probably one of the better defenses in the league, if not the best, alongside the Wanderers. I said those two teams were the two teams with the best defense at the moment. I am underrating Sydney FC though. Yes, those two teams gave up a 2-2 draw. Yeah, and then they went for their first ever interstate trip and beat the Brisbane Roar 2-0. Now, the Brisbane Roar game, MacArthur were out-dominated in every aspect. In every aspect. And even though Brisbane Roar did this against Melbourne City and deserved the win, I don't necessarily believe Brisbane Roar deserved the win in this game. They definitely deserved the draw though. MacArthur didn't necessarily look great. But the thing is that MacArthur play a very negative game style and a very defensive game style that's exactly what they want to do. They don't care if you have the ball. They don't care kind of how the game gets played. They're happy to defend and then just, hit you on the counter, or, they're happy to just pass the ball around to frustrate the shit out of you and then score, and then obviously sit back for the rest of the game. And that's exactly what they did. Brisbane Roar are very, very unlucky to lose that game. It is what it is. But Brisbane Roar are very unlikely to lose that game. But I think MacArthur have definitely shown that they have the ability if they can get their attack going. If they can get their attack going, they are genuine contenders this year. Number 4, and we have the Central Coast Mariners. I don't think that we can put them too much higher than this so far, but that is a very good result for them already as well. I had them in 5th last week. They are in 4th. There are still a couple of teams that I have above them as we speak. But then again, the Mariners continue to prove me wrong, continue to prove you wrong, continue to prove everyone wrong. And what a result against Western United, being down twice and coming back to win that game. Alu Kuol, I said at the time, I said, bring him on. He's going to do wonders for this team. He comes on, he scores 2 goals. I think that Kuol off the bench is so much better than starting him, to be completely honest with you. I think overall the Mariners, if they can sort this attack out, and this is my only problem with them, if they can get this attack sorted out, with obviously Orena up front and Matty Simon, if they can click with obviously Kuol coming off the bench, then this team is genuinely a top 4 team. Their defense is legit. Their midfield is I guess their weakest part, but it's still not. It's still been pretty okay this year. You know what I mean? It's still been pretty fine. And then obviously their attack is where the bit of the shakiness comes in. However, they've been showing the last couple of weeks that they're still scoring goals, baby. They came back from 2-0 down against Melbourne City to win against Melbourne City 3-2, and then also did the same thing basically against Western United. Now, you've also got to realise, though, that they've given up 2 goals in both games, and both the teams they played and came back against are very low end of the table, but they still got the results. So you can only play who you're playing. Number 3, and they don't move. They were 3rd last week, they're 3rd this week, and that is the Perth Glory. I think this is a fair result. They weren't that great in the game against Adelaide. They were down 1-0 at half time, came back to win 2-1. Got to be happy with that. Definitely could. This is another reason why I didn't put Mariners higher, because I felt like it was unfair that Perth Glory still got the win and would drop below the Mariners. I wouldn't think that's fair. So I've still got Perth in 3rd, and I've still got Mariners in 4th. But yeah, obviously for me, I think overall this season I would nearly argue that Mariners should be above Perth so far. But like I said, Perth got the win, so I can't put that team now below another team just because when they got what they need to do. So that's what I'd say. But Perth, they look fine. Defensively, obviously not great. Yes, they gave up only 1 goal to Adelaide, though. Apparently Perth Glory don't play this week, lads. Apparently Perth Glory, is it just a quarantine or something like that? I don't know. But point of the matter is, Perth are 3rd. Didn't change anything from last week. And now, I think if the Mariners, who the Mariners play actually, that's a good question. Whoever the Mariners play, the Mariners get to play the Wellington Phoenix. Ooh, tough one, but Wellington have never won a home game in Australia, and it is technically a Wellington home game. So I think Mariners probably do jump into 3rd next week. But obviously, that's just assumptions right now. That's just predictions. Right now, Perth are in 3rd, and I think it's fair enough. Number 2, and unfortunately for me, I'm a Raw fan. We do swap them around. I do have the Brisbane Roar in 2nd. This is a little bit of a tough one. The reason why I have them in 2nd is because the other team got the win as well. And obviously, Sydney FC, I don't know why I'm saying the other team, but I think it's because the other team got the win. But Brisbane Roar, they looked pretty good in the midfield and defence, and Jamie Young was fine. The attack didn't click. And this has been my biggest worry this year, is that the attack, I don't know how consistent they're going to be. And they came up against a team in MacArthur who can defend, right? And last week and every week I say, the Raw have been good, but who have they played? Who have we played? We beat the Jets, cool, but we got completely outclassed by them. We still beat them 2-1. We beat Adelaide 3-1, but it's Adelaide. We beat Melbourne Victory twice and flogged them twice, 5-2 and 3-1. But it's Melbourne Victory. They're last place for a reason, you know what I mean? And Melbourne City was the only team that I guess you class as class, but they're not that class this year. We were the better team, but we lost that game 1-0. So I didn't see what results really told us a great deal about the Brisbane Roar. But off the start of the season, it made sense to put them in number 1. All right, and then obviously, look, they won 5-2 against the Victory. So you do weigh that into account. But that still was the victory. And that's why I say with these power rankings, it comes down to a multitude of reasons. Not just kind of straight up, Raw at top, and still basically are top with the game in hand. They deserve to be 2nd because there's still a lot of question marks. Now, guys, I will be, obviously I'll be streaming this weekend, but I will be at the Brisbane Roar vs Sydney FC game next week, vlogging it for the Raw at Cogra. That'll be our biggest test. Because we play Jets this week. I don't really give too much of a shit. If we lose that, then I do give a shit. But I don't really give too much of a shit about that game. I give a shit about even if we win. I don't know if I'll put us into 1st. Unless, obviously, Sydney FC lost. But next week, Sydney FC vs Brisbane Roar will be a really good game to prove whether this team can match it with the big boys and match it with some teams that actually have the pedigree to go and win the competition and are genuinely, up there with the Brisbane Roar right now. So, yeah, that's going to be the interesting one. I think for now, Brisbane Roar can be 2nd. I think you could still argue 1st because after that big win against the Victory, but that Victory result 5-2 didn't really hold too much weight for me. And number 1, we have Sydney FC. Yep, Sydney FC jumped from 2nd to 1st for me, and I think it was just a clinical performance. They didn't really play that greatly. There wasn't any spark. There wasn't any masterclass. But Barbarouses played very well. I thought Barbarouses was unreal in that game. And, I think that he had one of those special games that really obviously got them that win. Yes, it was 2-1, but realistically it was 2-0. Ulysses Davia scored late on, like I said. But Sydney FC looked class. You know, they looked fine. They looked fine. Now, that is against Wellington, who currently are in 11th place, and whenever they've played a decent team this year, look, they obviously lost to the Mariners. Have they played anybody else, actually? That's actually a good question, actually. Have they played anybody else? They played Wellington. Sydney played Wellington. They beat Macarthur. That result didn't really hold too much weight. They lost to Mariners 2-0. They drew 1-1 with the Wanderers. They beat Wellington 2-1. Sydney haven't really played anyone, to be honest with you. Not gonna lie. I'll keep them in first because I think that they deserve it after that win against Wellington. They haven't really played anyone. The only game that I guess would hold weight for them, for me, would be that Macarthur game, but there was so much that went into that game. And I thought that Macarthur was still pretty good after the red card, the first half of one, after they got a red card. And then in the second half, if Federici, like I said last week, holds onto the ball, you know, they'd probably hold out for a 0-0 draw there, and then I don't think Sydney FC would be above Brisbane Roar here. So I think this is a bit of a tough marker, actually. I didn't actually think too much about who they've played so far. I think it's fair to have Sydney FC number 1, because overall they haven't proved us anything differently. I think they're still showing us that they are a genuine contender. And they've got the least question marks about them. Mariners have question marks. Roar still have question marks. Macarthur have question marks. Everyone does. Everyone has question marks. And yes, Sydney FC have question marks. But who do they play this week as well? That's a good question. Who do they play this week? Sydney FC this week play. I think they have 2 teams, actually. They play 2 games. So they play Western United and then play Melbourne City. And both of them in Melbourne. So we may see another Swap-a-Bruno next week. We may see another cheeky little whoopah. But for now, controversial, but I think I'll have Sydney FC up top just because I think that they have the least controversialness and the least question marks surrounding them. But alrighty guys, that's going to do us for today's video. If you have enjoyed, please do give it a big thumbs up. I do really appreciate it. Obviously go down there, hit that subscribe button, notification bell, because we post every day on a weekday. We are getting back, smacking out vlogs the first time in over a year, and we're going to be doing an unbelievable amount of content on this channel. So obviously subscribe like I said. Don't forget as well, we have BKR clips, so if you don't get to watch the full stream when I'm live reacting to games, if you don't get to be there for the games, I also have a channel called BKR Clips, which is, you know, basically a clip channel that takes out the most important topics of the stream and chucks it over there. BKR Travel will be coming back in the next week or so, as well as I will be putting out vlogs from my quarantine to show you guys what I've been doing and what it's like here in hotel quarantine. But that's all for today, guys. We'll be at the Wanderers vs City game this weekend, so the vlog will come out on Sunday, and I appreciate it as always. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Catch you later. Oh, shit.